Frank's room 2106 on July 6, 2026. Will all members of the committee please state their name for the record?
Colin Shebakar.
Logan Alexander.
Valen Jensen.
Carlos Salas. Lane Folk.
Phoenix Gumstone.
Tyler Tyson.
Noah Disher. Pujon Patel.
Will all members of the public please state their name for the record?
Kayla Aurora.
Tyler Spy.
Danielle Humble.
Jerome Scott, advisor.
Melissa Gambia Thompson, advisor.
Simonne Horman.
Solange Douglas.
Justin Donelly, advisor.
Jackie Leon.
Zach Colton.
And Dr. James Tyger here on behalf of student engagement.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And now we are in line for a presentation from Dr. James Tyger.
Wonderful. Always excited to be here. First hearings, activity and service, kicking it off on a Monday morning after a holiday weekend. We're going to have some fun today. Well, good morning. I am Dr. James Tyger. I serve as our Assistant Vice President in Student Life, working with the student engagement team. Reflecting back, gearing up for this presentation was kind of fun because in some ways we've had a lot of transitions. So student engagement, we just wrapped up year 2 with our return to the Big 4. And so thinking now, looking 2 years in advance for fiscal year 28, I'm excited to talk a little bit about some of the changes we've made and kind of what our plan is with the resources we've been granted. Also fun for me because for 14 years I had the privilege of working with the activity and service fee process, but for the last 5 I actually get to be on this side, a very different experience, so hopefully y'all take it a little easy on me today. We'll get it kicked off big picture. So with student engagement, just wanted to highlight the mission vision we have for our team. Wanted to highlight in particular our real focus on your co-curricular experience. So thinking about the experiences you gain outside of the classroom, what that means for you from your development, from the skills you can gain, what it means for you as the people able to lead teams, communicate effectively, and the skills you ultimately develop that we believe are really critical for your long-term success. So part of that, we have our values in student engagement, and I like to highlight them. You'll hear me be a little cheesy, but SC.A.L.E, a Gator scales, okay, but we have our SC.A.L.E values. And so I really did want to hit on that skill development piece as we think through even opportunities like you all have today to be the students that are able to steward the activity and service fees, the opportunity to ask tough questions, to understand where your funds are going, but what that means for your degree of comfort as you prepare for whatever those next steps and experiences are. Our team really believes in that. We believe in the ability for you to have those experiences, to understand how you can articulate those as you go to find jobs or pursue your graduate work. But really, we believe the University of Florida has such a tremendously unique experience for our students. And our values really do work to align with the things that our team puts out programmatically, what we do from an advising lens. But I really wanted to highlight both skill development and I think agency is the other one. Thinking about our students here, when we say we really have the opportunity to learn in this learning laboratory in a place like student government, agency is really a part of that. The ability for you all to be independent, the ability for you all to have that ownership of your experience in a way that isn't just, lip service. We really believe that you have those opportunities here, and we believe that sets the Gator experience apart from what some other folks may choose to do at other institutions. So our org chart, we have a fun web of folks here, and I'm actually, that's one I'm going to show you. Thank you. We talk about a web of opportunities. So across the student engagement team, we'll have a variety of different offices, but as a reminder, we have our campus engagement team, so working with student government advising, working with our campus events and traditions, our Office of Community and Belonging, which I'll have some updates on that today relative to where that office is headed. But for this last fiscal year, we have our student organizations and advisor resources team, and then we also have our campus, our community engagement team. We have our Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life, Office of Student Legal Services, Student Engagement Administrative Services, and then our Experiential Learning efforts, championed by Jackie. And I'll have each of our team kind of pop up and give you a little bit of some data we have for each of those areas here shortly. But as we prepare for the year ahead, I wanted to highlight a couple different pieces. So we are seeing some changes, which I'll explain in kind of one of my next coming up slides. But I wanted to highlight that we've actually had a lot of transition. So if we think about our team from this last year headed into the year ahead, almost 1/3 of our team have transitioned into new roles or potentially left the team. And so that on the one hand provides a really unique opportunity for us to bring some new folks on board and get excited. I'll use the Student Government Advising and Operations team as a really great example. We've had some brand new folks join the team and we're really excited about that. But it's a little bit of a challenge for us too, as we want to make sure we're recruiting top talent, and I'll talk about what an investment in that looks like as well. But I wanted to highlight one change on here for us. So some of you all were able to participate. We've had some external consultants come in thinking about how HR and finance works for the Division of Student Life. And so that's actually led to a shift with our student engagement administrative services team. So Gary dotted line reports to me now, though he's still obviously here to support the student engagement team. He is part of a restructuring within our division. And so kind of thinking about what that might look like and what opportunities may exist, we'll have some updates, I'm sure, forthcoming as we continue to hear more from those external consultants of the things that they're potentially looking to do relative to our division and how we support finance and HR efforts. I also wanted to highlight our strategic areas of focus. So we have 6 on the year ahead. We had our retreat as a team last month and really started to dive into what we're going to be able to do and we think the impact that's going to have on students and their experience. But number one is really how do we increase our student engagement? I was able to report for fiscal year 25, we had 27,227 Gators students attend or interact with our team. So we're just shy of about 50%. So our goal for the upcoming year is going to be how do we get closer and or exceed that 50% threshold. Our data is currently being compiled and sent in since we just finished the fiscal year to our assessment team. And so I don't have my FY26 numbers yet, but I will make sure that I do get a copy of those to you all to let you know kind of where we landed as we continue to think about opportunities for better engagement across the student body. We have new Gator Connect, and Solange will be talking a little bit about what that's going to look like as we prepare to launch that next week. But we've already been in the beta testing for that, and we're excited to see what impact that will make too. Strengthening internal and external collaboration is our second area of focus. So for us, our Young Alumni Council is a new initiative we're looking to build out. We know that our alumni are extremely excited and want to be engaged with things that are going on in student engagement. You think about the things that have been a meaningful part of your experience, many of those are going to be the things as alumni you want to continue to remain invested in. And so we're excited to launch that Young Alumni Council, and we're hoping to have the applications actually available for that as soon as this month. And so that'll be a new area. Jackie will be leading that for us as well. And one of the things I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to build out over this upcoming year are how do we strengthen the bridge between our current students, our alumni, and some of the employment aspects. And so I'll use an example. We have a Hall of Famer who's worked at Bain in consulting for the last 20 plus years. I had a meeting with him last month, and he's like, James, I really want to figure out how do I better recruit our engaged student leaders. And I'm like, say less. Like, let's figure that out. And so thinking about some partnerships like that and pipelines and different panels and things we'll be able to do. I also highlighted this last year. We did Should I Be a Lawyer? We know we have a lot of students that are interested in whether they think they might want to be a lawyer, but they want kind of a low-key ability or lower stakes to test that out. And so we launched that program and had a lot of success and interest with that as well. And so I think for us, that Young Alumni Council is going to help to be a bridge for our current students with our alumni and hopefully some philanthropic engagement there as well. Number 3 is demonstrating student skill development. So you'll hear me again talking a lot about your skills. We did focus groups with student organization presidents this last year to try to figure out what skills they believe they are gaining through their opportunity to lead one of our over 1,200 plus student organizations. And so I think that's, again, a good example of us trying to pull in data to better tell the story, the impact of the work that we're able to do with our team. We're also building out a Pathways program in the new Gator Connect, which will give you the ability to gamify some of the skill development pieces. So let's say you might be able to say, like, I'm a gold in this category. We're working through those different pieces now. I'm excited to be able to launch that in the year ahead as well. And then telling the story of our impact through data. My team will tell you data, data, data. My boss will also tell you, the number one thing for me, I needed to be able to say data, data, data. What are we able to share? And I think the huge part of that for me as we reflect on this era, and each of you are going to hear this throughout all of the big four, you know, the budgets are tough right now. You know, we have raises that come through and the increase in the minimum wage, and the reality is that those are not funded, right? So we need to either make some cuts or, you know, have a harder aspect of thinking through what's really the top priorities for us. But the way I view that is, at the end of the day, you are making an investment, a significant investment in the student experience. And so I need to be able to come back to you and say, okay, well, here's what that means. Here's what it means for this number of students, or these types of skills, or this type of thing for employment. And so one area as an example of something we've been able to do over the last year is I can now tell you, for example, our student organization officers, so presidents, vice presidents, and treasurers, On average, they're making $5,000 to $10,000 more than the general population of Gators when they graduate. I can also tell you that they're getting into graduate school 10 to 15% higher than the general population of non-involved students. I know the same for our Greek community. And so thinking about how are we pulling that data to be able to highlight the impact of some of those different experiences. And the other part for me that's very present is how do I then help you tell the story of that experience to employers or on your grad school application? Because I think there's a little bit of a gap there that we've been working through as well. But those are examples to me of that investment you're placing in us. How am I stewarding that and then helping you all on the journey that you're looking to go on in your own lives? We also have something called Data Days, and I would love to have you all join me. At the end of our fall and spring semesters, our team will go through that entire semester's worth of data, and we do like a half-day presentation on what we collected, what we found, what our overall numbers were. And so I would love, again, to have you all come join. Feel free to sit in and hear some of the impact in these different areas that we were able to showcase. And my last two for our strategic areas of focus, preparing for an AI-enabled future. I will geek out on this, but Robot Proof is a great book. It talks a lot about the human skills that people need and really students need to be successful in an AI era. And as we think through what a lot of those are, that communication skills, leadership skills, critical thinking skills, they're the things that align with what we know our student leaders are getting from their opportunity to be involved student leaders on a campus like ours. And so for me, I think that's been a helpful way to frame where do we fit in the world of AI. And I think that we help our students to gain the skills they need to be successful navigating an AI era. And I'll happily give a copy of the book if anyone wants to read it at any point. The other part of that is thinking about how do we use AI in our own work to be more efficient, to be more effective, and ultimately capture the data and different points we need. But then also how do we understand that so we can turn around and work with our students to help them better understand and engage with AI as well. And we know that there is a little bit of a delta between our, let's say, Gen Z folks and some of their interest in AI. I know our team was really diving into that. But I do think for us, especially with where the University of Florida is positioned, we've got to be really strategic in how we do help folks to understand where we fit in to an AI era. And then finally, last but absolutely not least for me, is investing in elevating our own team in student engagement. So we started a GROW committee, which is growth, relationships, opportunity, and well-being. But when I talk about that transition, one of the number of folks that transitioned on our team, one of the things we really have to be able to do is invest in our people. My research in my dissertation was on compassion fatigue for student affairs folks that work with behavioral consultation teams. And what I like to say is that our students, for example, we know there's a lot of really increased mental health demands and concerns for our students. But if we can't spend some time to figure out how to get our staff to be showing up at 100, we're not going to be prepared to help you all with the things that you ultimately need to be successful as well. And so when I think about our own investment in our team, I think that's really important. And I also am a really firm believer, and you'll hear me talk about this with professional development. I want to have the top experts in our country working here at the University of Florida and working for you. And that requires us being invested in them and supporting them as they go present at national conferences or they get involved in leadership roles, because we're then not only out sharing our experiences, we're bringing those experiences back and able to think more creatively about how we can support our students here at the University of Florida. So I said there are some updates and some changes. So the first is I'm really excited that the Collegiate Veteran Success Center is joining student engagement. So they joined our team this last month. We're currently working on the transition with them. They will be a part of the Office of Community and Belonging. We have over 2,000 veterans and military-connected students on our campus. And so we're really excited to be able to continue to grow that and think about how we support our students and veterans. It's going to be really important work. And I will share from that, and important for you all from a budget lens, the CFO's office has very graciously funded the staff in that area, so that is not an expectation that I'm asking of you all to fund that. And so we also have received a wonderful gift with the foundation that's going to be very helpful with operational expenses related to the Collegiate Veteran Success Center. So again, not an ask for A&S, but I think a value add with our team and student engagement as we think about how we are supporting this community here on our campus, and then ultimately growing our support for that community too. But with that being said, it created an opportunity to take a step back and think about how are we structured. So I'd shared student engagement has existed now for 2 years. We've had a lot of change over 2 years, and I've been very transparent from the beginning that I may not get things completely right, and we may need to come back and say, hey, we need to move some money with this or this. And so this opportunity created a chance to revisit that. And so what we did is our community engagement team in community and belonging, we sunsetted that team. So I had an associate director role that was vacant. We had gone through a couple searches and it didn't necessarily feel like we were aligned where we needed to be. And so we made the strategic choice to eliminate that position, and we're reclassifying it to an assistant director that's going to be focused on programs for community. We think that's going to be great for our students, but also as we talk about the need to save some money in different areas, it's saving me some money, and it's going to allow us to be able to do what we need to do today, and you'll notice in the budget booklet, with me not asking for additional dollars. So I'm coming in at a zero in the midst of obviously still some of these, and we'll talk about what those are, but I just wanted to use that as an example of us thinking a little more strategically about how we can still accomplish what we need to do within the footprint that we currently have. So just to highlight that again, so we had our student orgs and community engagement, and we've now shifted that into the Collegiate Veteran Success Center and student orgs and advisor resources. And then we've added that programming team. We're currently hiring for that role. I assume we'll hopefully have some of you involved in that process once we bring some folks to campus here in the coming month or so. But they'll be looking to do major events for community-focused efforts. I'm thinking about speed friending as a great example I like to highlight as part of our Great Gator Welcome, helping our students when they come in to build those connections and find friends here at UF. Other thing I wanted to highlight in that shift, so we did move a staff member who was working with some of those programming efforts to join the Experiential Learning team. If you haven't heard me say it probably pretty loud and clear today, I am very intentional with skills. How are we helping students be prepared as they think about career? How are we helping our students better capture their overall truly skills that they're gaining through these different experiences? And so what we are doing is looking to double down on our experiential learning programs. And so that's going to be where the Young Alumni Council will also reside, and Jackie will talk about some of those pieces. But that was one of the shifts we made as we, again, worked to sunset the community engagement team. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit more about the immersion programs and some of the different things we'll be able to expand based on that shift as well. And the other shift that I wanted to share, so student engagement fellows, when we talk about being creative and needing to work through kind of our different budget models, I have had to eliminate 2 program coordinators over the course of the last 2 to 3 fiscal years. And what I've done is created something called Student Engagement Fellows. And our Student Engagement Fellows are non-recurring funds. So essentially, let's say I have staff vacancies and we have some savings, and I'll talk about the reserves toward the end of the presentation. But what I'm doing is essentially hiring people for 1 year, typically students that have just graduated that are looking for a gap year experience that can join our team, help with those programs, help with advising, and then understand that at the end of the next fiscal year, if I'm in a place that I can do that again, then I will. And if I don't have enough money to do it, then we won't need to worry about, let's say, firing someone or making a reduction in our staff. We just simply won't post. We just wrapped up year 1 of that program. We had 2 fellows this year. It was extremely successful. Very positive for our 2 recent alumni that joined our team, very positive for our students that they were advising and working with. And so this upcoming year, we have actually hired 3 student engagement fellows for a 1-year, again, agreement, and then we'll revisit next summer as we see where we may have the opportunity to continue to work with that program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to some of my directors who can introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their respective areas.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Donelly. For those of you who I have not met, I serve as the Director of Campus Engagement. I wanted to highlight a couple of the programs that we do within Campus Engagement that my team works on, one being Great Gator Welcome, the other being our Signature Events program. Both of these programs in 25-26 seen an increase in not only overall attendance, but also unique attendance. Looking ahead to fall 26 for our Great Gator Welcome program, we are looking to expand the program out to a 2-week window instead of the 1-week window that we've had traditionally. And we're also incorporating some of our campus partners within the Division of Student Life. So think about programs that are already existing like Rextravaganza or the Gator Market through the Rights Union. Those will be incorporated within the program. We are also going to introduce what we hope to be a new tradition called the First Friday Barbecue. We've been working with business services as well as Chartwells to host this barbecue on the first Friday of the fall semester, and we're hoping all of our students will come out and enjoy some free barbecue, hang out with athletics, learn some of the chants, learn some of the cheers, Dazzlers, Albert, a fun time for everybody, but we hope to see you all come out to that. For our signature events program in this last academic year, in the fall, we welcome Jam Fest, we welcome Holy in the spring, and in this upcoming fall, we will welcome Diwali to our signature event series. And then applications for signature events will reopen in the fall, so we do have some slots available. So if you know any student organizations who have these high impact programs, we do welcome them to submit applications. The date I will let you all know once I have that, but it will reopen in the fall. And I think I'm turning it over to Solange. Yes, perfect.
Good morning. My name is Solange Douglas. I am the Director for Community and Belonging, which is just a fun way of saying I get to work with all our student organizations on campus, as well as developing really amazing community building initiatives for the student engagement portfolio. One of the things I really wanted to highlight for you all today is really an upgrade in some of our systems that we're having for our student organization leaders. We have a profile of over 1,200 student organizations registering with our office annually, and that number continues to grow by about between 150 to 200 organizations a year. And so with that, there was a demand and a need for us to upgrade our software in order to help our students better manage their organizations and honestly improve our own systems and processes. And so I want you all to kind of view student engagement's Gator Connect system as just one of the platforms that we provide to students and to student organization leaders to help manage and build skills on campus. So I'm excited to reveal that Gator Connect is coming on board. It is a new platform, a new technology, a new software that will allow our students greater autonomy in managing their organizations while also improving some of the efficiency pieces of our office internally. So we're looking at the ability for student organizations to manage their own rosters, upgrade their own systems, develop their own elections within the system itself. There'll be greater communication technologies for our student organizations to communicate with their entire organization within the system, and better processes to be found as well on campus. On the back end, administratively, it allows us to have clearer understanding of how registration, officer eligibility, officer training, as well as event permitting happens on campus. So we're excited about this new process and this new procedure that we will actually be launching next week. And you'll definitely see the experience and shift. We've got a goal of engaging at least 10,000 students within the first year of the system, with of course continuing to develop some outreach and activations on campus for Gator Connect to continue to grow. Another feature that I'm really excited to announce is the recommendation pieces. Based off of the student's profile, the system will also make some recommendations on what that student might be interested in getting connected to. It's always my goal to make sure that our students feel like they're connected to the Gator Nation. And I think this system is just one way that we'll be able to do so. I think the next person is Jackie.
Happy Monday. My name is Jackie Phillips Leon, and I serve as the Program Director for Experiential Learning. My role was created last May, so we are now coming up at just over a year of some intentional experiential learning initiatives within student engagement. And so we've always known that our programs help build community, help students lead or develop leadership skills, and find their home away from home. But while we know that you're also developing all of these different skills and we're helping you towards your future career, it's hard to articulate and share that story. So we've been really intentional about that throughout the past year. And so this past fiscal year, we had 36 distinct experiential learning offerings across student engagement, those meeting the definitions defined by our Career Connection Center as well as our Board of Governors. As James mentioned, we conducted focus groups with our student organization presidents, and that really helped us inform some of our different initiatives on skill set development, as well as create our new Pathways program, which I'll share a little bit more about in just a second. But these focus groups really helped us identify where do our student leaders know that they're developing skills, and where are some of those gaps so that we can be more intentional in the programs and trainings that we're offering. And so one example that came out of that is that many of our student organization leaders didn't realize the technology use that they were experiencing within their student organization roles. And so now we're thinking about how can we make sure that our trainings and our programs better align and help them reflect on those experiences. We've also expanded our department-wide training and professional development for our student employees and graduate assistants. We have over 100 student assistants that work for student engagement. That ranges from everything within student government with our bike repair shop to our student engagement ambassadors and our different front desks. And so really working to help those students reflect on those experiences and how it's helping them with whatever's next for them after their time at UF. We also successfully launched Should I Be a Lawyer and hosted an on-campus escape room. So some different programming really focusing on skills and future careers. And we're really excited to expand that Should I Be a Lawyer series this upcoming year to include some other disciplines, including Should I Be a Consultant, potentially Should I Be a Healthcare Professional, and some other disciplines based on students' interest. As we mentioned with Gator Connect, we will have a pathways process. This is essentially like a gamification of students' experiences, so students can submit reflections based on their different skills and ultimately earn a certification. And then that will allow us to submit to the Gator Experience record. So recognizing that UF now has a co-curricular transcript, so think a sister transcript to your academic transcript. We will now have a formal process for helping students reflect on their experiences and help us say, yes, they served in this role, and then add that to the co-curricular transcript. So that will launch this fall, and we're really excited about that process. And then lastly, we had a few smaller intentional programs like our Gator NASPA Student Life Fellows program for students interested in higher education and student affairs. And then we also facilitated the Golden Gator Council, which is a council of students that provide feedback on student engagement at UF as well as student life in general. And then for this upcoming year, we're really excited for the development of the Young Alumni Council, helping find opportunities to connect with our alumni, and once again, really invest in our students and their career readiness. And then we're also excited that hopefully next year we'll have more updates and specific dates and things of that sort, but working on developing a study abroad program for students focused on leadership. So you have to do that way in advance, but we're in the process of that to turn in the paperwork this fall. But that's some of our experiential learning from our first year. I'm gonna hand it over to Simonne and Sorority and Fraternity Life.
Hello, my name is Dr. Simonne Horman. For those that I have not had the opportunity to communicate or connect with, I'm excited to be here just to talk about some highlights within the sorority and fraternity life community. One of our focus areas certainly has been how do we connect with non-Greek students, as well as how are we being intentional about we communicate and we and connect with a lot of our student leaders within the Greek community, but how are we being intentional about connecting with some of our general members? And so that really has been how we have led with a lot of our programming efforts this fiscal year. So a couple things up here. I just wanted to make sure that we're highlighting our new members that we're bringing into the community. With the fall semester certainly being the semester that we bring in the majority of our members. So you'll see these are just kind of the breakdown between our 4 Greek councils and how many members they brought in the fall and then also in the spring. With our highest total community number being 8,499, so almost 8,500 students. And then you'll also see this year our GPA data we're very proud of has increased. And so we've certainly seen the gap between the all-university GPA and the all-Greek GPA widen, which we love to see. That means our Greek students are doing well in their academics, and that is certainly the reason why we are here at the University of Florida. And then some program and event highlights that we have. Over the last fiscal year, our team did 73 risk management workshops and programs, and that reached about 5,979 students total. So that is more than half of our Greek community, and we want to see that number go up in the different offerings that we provide. Certainly, we have Greek chapters that are asking for these types of workshops. And so we hope that we can provide other opportunities for them, such as leadership programs and some other things of interest for them. Over the year, we did 18 hazing prevention programs, so separate from the risk management, hazing prevention was also a focus for us. That reached about 2,539 participants. We did a activation with Bubble and Poppy called Gator Glow. That was open to all Greek students with 1,120 attendees throughout the event. We started a few years ago an event called Mocktail Mania that happened right before spring break as a way to kind of encourage safe drinking practices. And so that is an event that's open to all Greek students. This year we were able to partner with Community and Belonging and bring out other student organizations. We also partner with a lot of our different departments within student affairs and the university and have them participate. And we had about 735 attendees. But the idea of the event basically is that if you are an organization that wants to sign up to participate, you will create a mocktail of choice, and then there's a competition within that. We did Greek Days of Service. We did one in the fall semester and one in the spring with a total of 314 participants. This year, as we move forward, we're looking at revamping that process. And it's something that we include our student or council leaders in the planning of, and so we want to be able to expand that more. Accessible Day at the Lake is a partnership with the Disability Resource Center, so again, reaching more than just our Greek students. We had 224 attendees. It's out at Lake Wahlberg, and so we know that that sometimes is a little bit of a, I guess, a challenge to get out there. So we're hoping to figure out how we can expand that and get more people involved. And then we've continued forward with our member development series, which is our life skills program. We had 6 different workshops with 220 participants this year. That program is open to all students, Greek or non-Greek. The majority of our participants are Greek, but we do work with, we worked with Gator Nights in the past to be able to push them out as different options. A couple of new things for 26-27, we are moving to the Salesforce platform for our roster management. It's a way for us to be able to communicate better with our other campus colleagues. So we work with TAPS for parking, we work with UFPD on certain things, and so it sounds like, from what we're understanding, a lot of the other areas on campus have access to Salesforce, so being able to push this information out with them without having to make it so manual for both our students and our staff. We are looking at a comprehensive redesign and enhancement of our academic courses. We provide 3 Greek leadership courses, and so we are pushing forward with that redesign. And then we are looking at an implementation of proactive chapter support model, where we're looking at our chapters that are maybe struggling in different areas, whether that is in membership, recruitment, retention, conduct, maybe it is just like operational pieces, and figuring out how best we can provide some very pointed support for them. And then we are open for expansion within the Multicultural Greek Council, so we're excited to be able to bring a new group to campus, or maybe more than one new group. So we'll be moving forward with that process in the fall. And that is all from Sorority and Fraternity.
A couple quick updates I wanted to give, and then we'll get into wonderful budget numbers. Okay, I know everyone's excited about that part, but first, I would be remiss if I did not say how awesome Student Legal Services and our SG Finance, Student Engagement, Administrative Services teams are, but you'll hear more about them predominantly in the SG presentation later on this morning. So, I just want to highlight, yes, they are part of Student Engagement, but they are funded in a different way. So, just wanted to point that out and how great they are. But to go back to a couple of the comments that you heard, I wanted to highlight that for student organizations, we had 1,222 registered student organizations this fiscal year, which puts us at #1 in the entire state of Florida and #2 in all of the SEC. University of Florida, our students love having student organizations. They are very creative. We have a litany of options, and if we don't have it, we will work with you to create it. But I wanted to highlight that because, as an example, we're almost double the number of student organizations that Florida State has, as an example. And so I think that's a really amazing way that our students are able to find and build community here, and something that we're able to support. I also want to highlight that we have the largest number of Greek-affiliated students in the state of Florida as well. Something, again, we're very proud of the growth in our Greek community and the experience that provides our students. And then the Gator Experience record is also something that I highlighted last year and will again today. So for our students who get that transcript of your involvement throughout your time at UF, and that'll be certified, and Jackie and her team are working to help certify that on our end as part of that experiential learning initiative. But every organization you were a part of, all the service you did, like all of that will show up in the Gator Experience record. And that's why it was really important for us that we got Gator Connect built and ready for 2026 and beyond, even though my favorite joke of our last system is that I love that it cost me $0. After 10 years, the reality is it wasn't meeting what our students expected, and was not going to be able to set us up for success for the Gator Experience record as well. And then other thing I wanted to do before we get to those numbers would be talk through some staff highlights. And in the book, I've got a variety of them, but a few that I did just want to highlight for everyone. When I say that I want to have experts, I mean that. And so we had 15 plus presentations by our staff at national conferences. We have multiple people serving in significant leadership roles on national boards. Jerome, I'm going to embarrass him for a minute, but Jerome was selected for the NACA Frank Harris Outstanding Student Government Advisor of the Year, which is essentially the top award that a student government advisor can receive in the whole country. That is the type of thing that I want to be able to celebrate for our team and what that means for our students and how we show up for our students. For Superior Accomplishment Awards, we had 2 on our team. Candace won one for an individual employee performance, and Justin was part of a team collaboration one on the class photo. Again, recognition of creative and innovative things our team is doing. We had a recipient, Simonne, of the Phi Gamma Delta James E. Caswell Award. We had the Graduate Assistant of the Year for the division with Callaway. We had the Art Sandine New Professional Award from Colby with our Community and Belonging team. And Candace also received the American College Health Association New Professional Award. That is what I want to be able to report when I talk about the significance of having experts on our team. And that requires an investment from us in the folks that we have here as well. So to highlight the budget, a couple things I wanted to say. So you might be surprised that I came in at a 0. So I did not ask for any additional funds beyond our existing footprint. That does mean there are some trade-offs. So here's what those trade-offs look like for us. So I'm cutting 2 graduate assistants for fiscal year 28. So I'm removing one from Community and Belonging, and that would have been historically a part of the community engagement team. I'm also removing one from Experiential Learning. So by shifting that staff member over into Experiential Learning, I'm going to go ahead and take a grad assistant out because we'll have additional folks that are able to do that work. So I don't think that there will be a trade-off on the student experience. I think we can still very much meet the demand that will be set for our team. Additionally, by reclassifying that one role from an associate director down to an assistant director, that is also saving money. So between all of those things, I'm expecting to save approximately $80,000, which will offset what I need to accommodate potential raises in FY28. Other things we're doing that you'll see in this budget, we're centralizing equipment replacement under student engagement, and we're also centralizing office supplies, the phones, printing, and uniforms. I said earlier there are going to be some things I didn't get right in the beginning, and this is an example of some things that we probably should have done this way from the beginning. So as an example, we have to pay for all the phones that are in all of the offices across all the student engagement team. It probably doesn't make sense to have a little bit of a line in every single one of our offices as opposed to us just paying the phone bill in one centralized location. Makes it a lot easier for everyone, and Cindy, who's our office manager, is handling it anyways, so you'll see those updates throughout. And then finally, I want to highlight business affairs. So with the new Gator Connect, we were able to revisit the contract we have, and so our colleagues in business affairs will be picking up a part of that annual cost, which is great. But what that means is I can reduce some funding we had set aside for that line because they will be picking up part of that, and that was also helpful for us as we navigated some of the offsets. So this is what you have in the budget booklet, and I can talk through, again, very specific pieces, but I also added an extra degree of detail that I can go into for each once we kind of get through this part. But again, to highlight a couple significant changes you'll notice. You're like, James, that's a lot of money you moved into SE Central. Let's talk about it. Well, what that is again, taking that assistant director position that we had in Community and Belonging, and it's been moved under Experiential Learning, which is part of SE Central. So most of that is going to be that shift. And then you'll also see that we tightened up pretty much each of our budget lines to align with kind of what the realities will be for staffing. I know it's also probably a little surprising, but I am showing now a 3rd straight year of less money in our staff and salaries line. But I do think, again, we're thinking strategically on how can we continue to meet the demand, provide the services, while doing that within kind of our existing footprint. With that being said, our student line is going up, so we are going to have to do, I believe, one more round of raises. So there is the minimum wage, the final increase that's occurring this fall. My team has historically stayed $1 ahead. We're going to plan to continue to do that one more time. So we are going to move to $1 over minimum wage to continue to be able to attract students that need good paying jobs and want to be engaged in the ways that our student engagement team is able to be engaged. And so that will be, hopefully, the last time we see an increase in that line for a bit, as we'll likely be frozen at that amount for the foreseeable future. Programming, you'll see a slight reduction, and I'll get into that and what that means, but the bulk of that, especially coming out of community and belonging, was a reduction to the line for Gator Connect and the annual contract we have for that. And then administration, you'll see a significant increase in SE Central. That's the centralization of the phones, the uniforms, all those different pieces kind of under that one line. And then in equipment replacement, we rolled it up. So Cindy will be buying all the computers for the whole team moving forward out of that one line. Easier for her, easier for us. And then continuing education, we essentially, because a staff member moved, we flipped some funding and reduced it slightly, still remaining at $3,463,520. And then to go into a little bit more detail, and this is not in your budget booklet, but I wanted to include it, just to kind of give you an example of the exact line items each of our offices have. So, and this will help explain kind of where we're shifting the funding. So you'll see miscellaneous, we reduced that, but the office supply line, we've rolled that up from each of the offices, so there'll be $7,000 in that line in FY28. Phones cost us about $6,000 a year. Student engagement printing, $2,500, and uniforms, which will be $7,000, which will include everything from our student assistant polos, staff polos, things like that. And then the equipment replacement for computers, and then continuing education, which is the professional development opportunities for each member of our team. I only included ones in here if they had a subline, for example. So if you don't see like staff salaries, it's because that one's in the other one, so you can see it there. Campus engagement, you'll see where we cut. A couple things I wanted to highlight here. Signature events, we're essentially keeping about the same. I made a slight reduction as we kind of work through balancing the budget. Overall, philosophically for me, what you're probably going to see is I'm a firm believer I want to keep as much programming dollars as I can. And that does mean sometimes we have to say, well, I might need a few less people. The alternative that I like to joke with my team is I'm like, well, if I just cut a whole bunch of programming, at what point do I no longer need that many people if we don't have the programming dollars? So programming is going directly back into your experience, the events and activities you're able to be a part of, and so trying to find that right balance for each of you and the experience we're able to champion. Other things to highlight, again, office supplies zeroing out because it got centralized, reducing the uniforms, again, for the more of the centralization pieces. But otherwise maintaining most of that as is. For community and belonging, so you will see that most of the cut is that $10K from Gator Connect that I am hopefully going to be now able to offset with a partnership with some of our colleagues in business affairs. We also did some reductions in the student organizations programming dollars. We felt that better aligned with what they've been actually spending, so we felt okay that we'll still be able to do the programs we need to be able to do with that $40,000. And then again, zeroing out of office supplies, reducing uniforms, equipment replacement rolling into the main line, and the shifting of that staff member for the continuing education. Sorority fraternity life. I wanted to highlight something here. So we actually are increasing programs. That was a strategic choice related to some of our hazing prevention programs that we are asking SFL to champion. And I want to be very clear about something with that as well, because we think about our Anti-Hazing Education Committee that we launched this last year. Anti-hazing efforts are not just related to our sororities and fraternities. I know a lot of folks assume that they are only in there, but they're not. So they're for all of our student organizations. We're working with our partners in athletics. We're working with folks from the band, you name it. And so I'm asking this team to continue to champion that work with some additional programming dollars that I think will again be able to benefit all students as we think about how we can best really work to educate folks on best anti-hazing practices. We also did a major survey this last semester. We're excited to see the results hopefully by the end of the fall, to think about some of the different areas we might be able to impact pretty significantly on that front. We also did the SEC and Friends Conference, just to highlight that. I still think there's a lot of value, but we're going to look to fund that in a different way, potentially through foundation funds. but I'll be working with Simonne to figure out kind of what makes the most sense for our team there. And then rolling office supplies and the equipment replacement, again, up into the centralization. And then last but not least, I wanted to talk about our reserve account. So funding that we do not spend from the activity and service dollars will roll over for us into a student engagement reserve account. Most of that money is going to be from staff salary savings. So if I have a vacant position that I don't fill, or it takes too long to fill, let's say a couple months, then that salary money will go unspent and then rolls into the reserve account at the end of the fiscal year. So Gary's estimate for me, as of like a week or two ago, is that I was going to start this fiscal year with approximately $650,000. And so I wanted to just be transparent about what my plan is with that, so you all can also see that aspect of our story. So when I talk about us having to get creative on the staffing front, this is what I mean. So those student engagement fellows, I've hired 3 for the upcoming year, and then we have 2 grad assistants that are also not on recurring dollars. So that's approximately $240,000. And because I have that money in the reserve, I'm able to do that for this upcoming year to help offset some of our potential drops in staffing and the ability to still continue to maintain our programming at the level we've been able to maintain it. So that's $240,000 of that. Next, I want to earmark about $200,000. That's the number I've historically tried to keep set aside for facilities, also potentially for administration. So as of today, we currently have 4 different facilities that we're working with. We have the 2 institutes as well as the student engagement portal. And then we also have currently some space in Yon Hall for the Collegiate Veteran Success Center. Now they're going to be moving into the portal as we have to get out of Yon, because I don't know if you all know, but the stadium's going to be expanding, update. And so we're going to be excited to have them in here as we try to think about more long-term plans and fundraising potentially for an independent Collegiate Veteran Success Center. With that being said, we'll have 3. So I want to be able to make sure that I have money set aside if I need to replace projectors or a TV or a space floods or you name it, and that I don't have to then come back and ask you all for additional funds unless it's truly necessary. And then finally, the remainder will go to programming. So examples from this last year, we funded Hazing Prevention Week out of reserves. We'll put funds toward the Great Gator Welcome. We'll partner on the first day of class show. We'll think about potentially what could we do with homecoming to expand programs there, or funding something like Accessible Day at the Lake. I'll often have a lot of conversations with the student body president. So Matthew and I at some point will sit down and say, okay, what can we potentially partner on? What are some things that are of interest programmatically for you? And then we'll think through what we can do to be able to expand that. But the remainder of it, the goal is I want it to go back into students and their experience, and I want that to happen now. So I'm not trying to roll a bunch of money over annually. We want to try to, again, pump that back into you and your experience. So wanted to be transparent about that as well. And that's our budget presentation. What questions can I answer?
Thank you very much. That was incredibly insightful. We are now in line for 30 minutes of discussion beginning now.
I'll go and just get and kick it off. I thought it was just really cool to see the differences in the like saving money where we can and everything. I'm super excited about this new Gator Connect program and everything. I think that's going to be super cool for this upcoming year and everything. And then the amount of money that we're saving with that as well, super great. Let's see, and also the centralizing the funds for the phones and everything as well, just to like put it all in like one line item as well. I thought that was really great as well.
Earlier you said that like, the student outreach was around 27,000 students and right at around 50%. What do you think is lacking that is not 100%, and how do you plan on fixing it?
That's a great question. So one of the things for me, so in this overall approach to how do we get better data, the underlying piece of that is going to be, okay, now I can better say who am I actually getting connected with and who am I missing. So Gator Connect itself, okay, I'm about to geek out, so watch out. Here we go. So there's something called the data lake. Are y'all familiar with data lakes in general? Okay, well the University of Florida has a data lake, and the general gist is that the more information we can put into the data lake, the better it can then pump out the story of like, and very quickly, of like what are we doing. So currently the old Gator Connect was just kind of very isolated. We would have to manually take Excel files, turn it over to the assessment team, they've got to run a big report, and then potentially put it in the data lake. The new Gator Connect is automatically in there. So every single member who's on a roster of a student organization, we can say, oh, boom, today we have 8,500 students that are members of student organizations. If you ask me right now, today, how many students are a member of a student organization, I don't know. I don't like that. That's not an acceptable answer to me. So we are working through how do we now get that into the one, new Gator Connect system, and then two, into the data lake, so we can very quickly report out how many students are actually involved in a variety of ways. I believe we have more than 27,000 students we're currently working with. Our data isn't able to tell that story currently, in particular because of student organization rosters. And I also will get into a whole thing about why I'm not going to require rosters, but I am going to incentivize rosters. And so I think our student organizations will then be able to make a choice on how they can do that, and then have that on the Gator experience record to show that you were an officer or you were a member, and we can certify that that occurred. Same with Great Gator Welcome. You know, trying to figure out, yes, we can capture who came, but we don't necessarily take a look at did they come to one and only, or did they come to three. And so I think for us, as we continue to get better about the data we're collecting, the next step for us is going to be, okay, well, who are we missing? And who can we do a better job of being intentional partners with? And so an example I'll use, 2 years now, we've had the Graduate Student Assembly. So that coming in as a signature event was really important to us when that was an offering, because we weren't doing as good of a job with our grad professional students as I thought we probably could be. And so thinking about how do we partner with the graduate school on Graduate Student Appreciation Week or the Graduate Student Assembly, like these are things we can be strategic in how we bring folks in. But I will tell you, I think areas for improvement for us are 100% going to be our grad professional students. I think there's always more opportunities to be better engaged with that group. And they're candidly, in many ways, isolated in different pockets. So a lot of grad students come in and they're really focused on their very specific academic college or program, and they may do some programming there. But that's where our student organizations can be such tremendous partners, because we have so many different orgs that are affiliated with our grad students and professional students, but again, we can't tell the story right now of how many are actually engaged there. But yes, an ongoing debate across our profession, but an area that we are being pretty intentionally focused on. And another one that I want to know is, let's say our Great Gator Welcome, how many students that are incoming students didn't come to any events? And then how do I reach out to them to say, hi, it's us. What are you doing? Can we bring you into something? Can we get you in for an individual involvement consultation with our student engagement ambassadors? The other one, our UF Online students, certainly an area that we've been navigating as well, though many of them are not fee paying, which is a totally different conversation. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Can you expand a little bit more on the Should I Be a Lawyer event highlight and how that's going to go in the future beyond law, like who you're partnering with, how those events will be run?
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that event. So we had an alumni reach out and connected us with an attorney here in Florida who has run that program at Notre Dame for many years. And the general gist is you come in, you actually meet with attorneys, you'll have law students serve as the different, like let's say witnesses or team captain in different roles. And then we're looking at undergraduate students who are just not sure if they want to be a lawyer. And they don't necessarily know what a lawyer really does. And I think about my own experience, like I'm technically an attorney, but didn't really know any attorneys, and then realized that was kind of the wrong choice. I needed to be in a different area, and thankfully student affairs have been there the whole time. But for our students, they actually go through the experience as like, here's an actual case, you're actually gonna have to ask questions of a judge. You'll have to think through what your defense would be, the different strategies attached to it. And then you'll also get to do a panel with not just attorneys, but also with current law students to get a better understanding of what that experience looks like. And our students, overall, the data we got back from our students was exceptionally positive. And we had over 150 students that expressed interest. And then how many, 60?
Yeah, we were only able to accommodate 60 students since we needed those small groups led by alumni as well as law students. We are looking to expand that this year to allow the capacity to be more. But within 48 hours, over 150 students expressed interest, and I had to close the form since we knew we could only accommodate 60.
Yeah, and I will share, I think for me also, strategically, like I want our team to take a shot in the dark at some of these things. Like we've never done a program like this, but we're like, well, let's try it out. And it turns out there were a lot of students who were really excited about it, and so now we're gonna figure out how we can expand that and offer, more opportunities. But sometimes we'll take a shot in the dark and we're like, well, that didn't work. Okay, and that's okay. We can scrap it or retool. But this one really went well, and so I'm excited. And I think we were talking about the health professions one because some folks might want to be a doctor, but we have a lot of UF students that come in thinking they're going to be doctors, and not all of them graduate becoming doctors. and that's okay. But they may not know that you could be, you know, what does it mean to be a nurse, or what does it mean to be in different areas of the health professions field, or a hospital administrator, or all the different things you could do. And so we've been thinking about how do we build out a program that captures some of that and gives students practical experience so they can then make educated choices about their, you know, careers and things they want to be doing.
I had a question. For the Gator Connect, it was $45,000 a year. Is that like a subscription to like the service that like the?
Yeah. So there's really 2, maybe 3 national companies that do that type of work. We're currently with Anthology Engage, which is now technically Encora, which is the most broadly used one in the country. Though they went through a bankruptcy, it's like a whole thing. So anyway, but yeah, we have a 5-year contract with them, and then at the end of that, we'll revisit whether we renew or we do something different. But this essentially gets us in alignment with pretty much what almost every other school in the state is using. Mine's 1 or 2 that I could do something a little different, but yeah.
So with Great Gator Welcome, I know that a lot of times that aligns with Panhellenic recruitment, which can kind of like reduce a lot of that attendance for all the students who are participating in that. I know you guys were saying you wanted to extend that to potentially 2 weeks, but was there anything you guys did have in mind with that being both of parts of your office?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. You know, I think that we have tried very hard to minimize overlap at the start of the semester with the Great Gator Welcome. And part of that is bringing in our colleagues, so expanding it to a 2nd week was also an opportunity, one, for that internal and external collaboration, but it also ensured that there's more opportunities for our students to find and build community, and Panhellenic's an amazing way that many students do. But the other reality is based on timelines, it's not going to be